Hey everybody, JJ here, back again with another Wednesday of Zoom Networking. Our guest speaker today is one of Pace Morby's rock stars, great guy, entrepreneur, business person, and just all-around fantastic human being, my good friend, Mr. Greg Clark. Greg, how you doing, my friend?
What's going on, JJ? I appreciate you having me on today. Hey, everybody. Just to kind of introduce myself really quickly. My name's Greg Clark. I've been in Sub 2 for about 3 years. I am a mastermind student, went to the mastermind back in 2021. Got into real estate, though, back in 2018. I kind of stumbled into my first deal by accident. I started another business, which is photo booth rentals for like parties and weddings and such. And the house that I was renting, a tree fell down in the backyard. And my landlord was actually going to sell the property. And I said, hey, why don't you sell it to me instead of selling it to whoever you're going to sell it to? Little did I know that I stole a wholesaler's deal. Had no idea at the time. I ended up buying the house, got approved for a conventional loan. And I noticed the house across the street from me sold for a decent amount of money. So I said, hey, let's flip this thing. Long story short, I did pretty good on the fix and flip, moved out of there, sold it, and tried to find another deal. And I discovered how hard it is to find a discounted property with equity to do a fix and flip. So I went down the wholesaling rabbit hole, as it were, with like YouTube and all that good stuff. And it seemed pretty simple, but it ended up being pretty difficult for me. And so what I did was I found a local mentor here in town who was doing about 10 deals a month, ended up joining his program, and got a couple of deals under my belt. I was doing pretty good. But then I discovered Pace Morby when I went to a mastermind back in 2021. And, you know, I'll be honest with you, I saw Pace Morby at the mastermind, which was cool. But then I saw Pace Morby do it was a 16-hour live at that time. I think it was a 16-hour live.
Heard about
He did
that.
a 16-hour live, and I was like, that was the guy. I was like, this dude right here, he's incredible. The amount of value he was given, I was like, this is the guy. And so I signed up for Sub 2 like immediately. So I've been in Sub 2 since July 2020, 3-year tenure in the group. And when I first got in the group, all I heard was door knocking. That's it. I heard people talking about door knocking like all the time.
Right. Let's hold off on the door knocking for a second. That's exactly where we're going to be going. But I want to talk about you for a minute, my friend. You know,
Sure.
You are the man of the hour. For those that don't know you, where in the country are you located?
I'm in Memphis, Tennessee.
Memphis. I need to get to Tennessee. I keep hearing how beautiful it is over there. You know, we're in real estate. We've been through Sub 2. Everybody on the calls in real estate, or you know, but we all started in a different place. And you know, I ask everybody. I kind of go back in a minute, as the kids say, to, you know, when we're driving, we're starting to drive, we're starting to vote. We go from those teen years into our 20s. Was real estate something that you saw when you were growing up? Was that even on your radar, or were you doing something else from maybe your teens to your 20s, or did you have anyone that was doing like as an agent or contractor or anything, or were you just doing something completely different?
No, I mean, when I was growing up, I would say, you know, my mom, she always watched like HGTV, and I always thought it was pretty cool watching people fix and flip shows. So I sit there and watch that with my mom in, you know, the living room and whatnot. But me, primarily all my life, I've been in hospitality. I've worked in restaurants for 18 years, man. I've opened up several restaurants here in town. I've worked all the way up from busser to bartender, and bartended several places here in Memphis, Tennessee.
So, you know, as you went through the hospitality industry, so obviously that's your career path before real estate. And I was going to ask, and you kind of touched on this earlier, how you got into real estate, but you'd bought a home and it was distressed, and you just sort of flipped that, and that was your beginning.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was like totally distressed. I mean, it was a decent rental property. It was just the landlord. We went on vacation. And me and my wife did, my family, we went on vacation, and there was a big storm and a tree fell in the backyard while we were out of town. And so they had to spend a ton of money. I think the landlord had a lot of medical bills because I want to say Steve, he had some medical issues, and you know, so they were kind of getting buried in debt. And I think their home that they were actually living in was starting to come under fire. They were kind of getting behind on payments, so they needed to sell this home to, make up for what they were lacking over there. And so I'm pretty sure that if I got the story right, it was an investor out of Vegas that reached out to them and offered them, I think it was 60, what was it, 68 for the house. And
Wow.
yeah, I pretty much, obviously I had the rapport because I never missed a rent payment in the time that I lived there. But I was like, can I just buy it for the same price? And she was like, sure. So I got approved for a loan and, ended up purchasing the property. Me now knowing, looking back, I stole that guy's deal.
Yeah, well, like you said, it's a great start for you. So, and again, you said you went down the rabbit hole of social media and all the different videos and YouTube College and ran across Pace. And you said that was about 3 years ago you got into Sub 2.
Yep.
Um, so you got in a little bit earlier. It wasn't quite as big as it is now. I got in 2 years ago. It was 1,200 people. Now it's 11,000 people.
Yeah.
So you got in when it's a little bit easier, I guess. So you've got to meet Pace personally, get to know him.
Honestly, man, back in the beginning, I'm not one to consume a lot of content. Which okay, everybody consumes content. Let me change that. I'm not one to sit and watch training videos all day. I'm more of like a dual purpose kind of guy. So like if I'm listening to like training or if I'm in a Zoom, typically if I'm not active in it, like I'm doing something else, either I'm washing dishes or I'm like cleaning up or I'm actually in my car driving somewhere. Like it's painful for me to do that. So like honestly, I didn't talk to Pace for I'd say probably about 2 months into the group. And when I first got into Sub 2, I think it was only like 250 people or something like that. It was like relatively small. So I could have got a lot of like one-on-one time with Pace. Like obviously it's like really hard to get a little bit of screen time or, to talk to the guy now because there's so many people on the Zooms all the time. But back then I could have had a lot of time to talk to him. And I wish I would have took advantage of it. But I was about 2 months in before I actually had a conversation with Pace.
When we get into Sub 2, when I got into Sub 2, they talked about, a couple of different roles: acquisitions manager, dispositions manager, transaction coordinator, integrator, visionary. Now they got the Avatar series with a whole slew of different names and things that relate to that. When you got into the beginning, when you started doing this, were you kind of juggling all the roles yourself? Were you doing all of it? And as things moved along, what was the growth of your company? I mean, were you using VAs or did you bring in people to help you? Or what was the kind of growth of things going when you were maybe starting by yourself or maybe you started with a partner? I'm not sure. How did that go for you?
Yeah, no, I was doing everything myself. I was doing bandit signs. I was sending out text blasts. Um, I had went to a mastermind and found out how to go after foreclosures. So I was making phone calls to foreclosures and doing pretty much doing everything by myself. So
Have you ever used a VA in the process of what you're doing?
yeah, yeah. VAs or the more recent end of it. Up until this year, I was a one man band.
Now, are you using, I mean, as people grow, because we're all going to grow, we all start somewhere, but are you using many, or did you use one for a while and then go to more, or is it you still with one, or how's that VA activity intertwine with your business?
Yeah, so with VAs typically use it for cold calling and admin work. It works out pretty good. They can scrub lists and clean up lists for you and put things where they need to do. VAs are really good for the monotonous tasks, the tasks that need to be done every single day that's the same, right? Um, cold calling. I mean, that's one thing that I hate. I absolutely dread cold calling, hence why I knock doors. Um, but that's what VAs are really good for. They're really good for doing those monotonous tasks.
Yeah, door knocking. Of course, door knocking is your expertise. You are the man when it comes to this. We got a number of people here that want to hear about this today. But how did you find out that that's what really lit your fire? Did you accidentally find out that this is what you wanted to do, or Did someone introduce you to it? Did you, you had mentioned something about getting started into door knocking. How did you start with the path you've walked down now?
With door knocking, it's one of those things where it's something that a lot of people shy away from, face to face contact with people. But remember, like I worked in a restaurant for 18 years and I bartended for, I'd probably say about a good 15 of those 18. So I'm used to meeting 200 random people a day. I'm used to the man. Honestly, I'll be real with you. If I didn't have anybody to talk to for at least 5 hours, I'd probably talk to a wall.
Well, you
Like
can.
I'm just a social person, so I'm not afraid to meet new people. And so when I heard about door knocking after I got into sub two, I was like, man, let's try to give this a shot. And after my first day, I knocked like 30 doors, and I was like, this is the thing. I think one of the biggest problems with trying to get started as business is you tend to try to do things that are not necessarily in your wheelhouse, because a lot of people have to acquire talents over time, but things that don't really resonate with their personality and who they are. And so I know, because I've been on my feet and literally walking 14 miles in a circle for a number of years, it's hard for me to sit down for extended periods of time. So when I would try to cold call myself, like I'd call like 10 numbers and then like I'm up walking around the house, like doing laundry or like something, doing, what do they call it? Creative avoidance of doing the thing that I need to do to make the money. So that's when I found door knocking, it just gravitated towards me.
Mandeep, you are on with Greg Clark. What's your question?
Yes. So I was wondering, Mr. Clark, thank you for your time. Um, when you started your door knocking, did you like start like your own LLC, like a set up a whole business, get like a bank account, and do that whole kind of stuff like that you do for a regular business? Or did you just start off like just going door knocking, getting deals and stuff first, and once that started picking up, then start to then create like an LLC, like a door knocking type
Yeah.
business?
Yeah. So when I first got started, man, I'm gonna be honest, and I probably wouldn't recommend it, but I didn't have anything. I just had like 2 feet, a truck, and my name. That's pretty much how I got started. I'm an extreme action taker, which, like I said, that's kind of like my personality type. Some people like to weigh the risk and different things like that. Me, I kind of just go screw stuff up and pull myself out of a hole. So when I first got started, man, I did so many deals in my own name. It's not even funny. Actually, my biggest deal that I closed was in my own name. That was before I got an LLC. Like I said, I'm nothing special, man. I just figure this stuff out over time, and I don't let stuff that I don't let little roadblocks keep me from taking action on the thing that I'm trying to do. When it comes down to, like, I have a photo booth business, right? I didn't have an LLC for my photo booth business for, man, I started that thing back in 2015. I was at a restaurant downtown Memphis. I had a conversation with a lady in the lobby, and she told me everything about the business. Like, I looked at it and I was like, what is that? And she was like, it's called a photo booth. And she told me all about it. Like, the next week I had one delivered in my driveway. Like, that's how much of an action taker I am. Like, I have no
Mhm.
idea like how to run the business, how to start it, I'm not a photographer. I don't know how cameras work, except for like pressing the button, say cheese. Like, that's it, bro. And that's just how I operate. So um you could get an LLC. Obviously, it adds protection. I mean, I would definitely recommend it, but you don't need it to get deals done.
Right. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Mandeep, thank you
That's
so
another
much.
question.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, go ahead.
Since I mean, maybe I'm jumping the gun, but like, how do you get motivated? Because I know you said you're an action taker, but like some days, you get out of bed. Like, say you got family, you got to go on vacation, you got something planned, something happens, you're not feeling good. Like if you're a one man band and you're not knocking doors that one day, that's like opportunity being lost, right? So do you just suck it up and just go? Um,
Yeah, I
like,
mean, So I'm gonna be honest with you, man. Like, I think a lot of people are like this. Like, the working at a W-2 job, it like kind of it ruins a lot of people in a sense that there's not you feel secure. I'll say that. Like in a W-2 job, there's like the security blanket that makes you feel like warm and fuzzy. So it's like I got 2 days off, I got 3 days off. I work from 9 to 5. After that, like I'm off. I can do whatever I want. And when you gotta sit there and think like I've been in a restaurant all my life, so I've never made like an hourly wage. Like it's literally my hustle and like my grind that makes the money. And so I'm just so used to that like if I don't work, I don't make money. And like that's motivation enough. Like if I have to work to feed my family. And a lot of people don't like to be in that position all the time. Me, I kind of train myself to be comfortable being uncomfortable because we don't grow from comfort. We go from being uncomfortable. And I found that served me so well throughout my entire life. If you saw me when I was 13 to 15 to 22 to now, I mean you just see like this metamorphosis of a person who doesn't I don't settle. Like I constantly like move forward in life, and that's from being comfortable with being uncomfortable. So
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
Greg, I want to tail on that for a second. Now that you've been doing this a while, when you're door knocking foreclosures, you're going to acquire this property, and then do you acquire them? What's usually your exit strategy? Are you buying and holding these? Are you flipping these? What's the standard? Is there a variety of exit strategies for acquiring them via door knocking pre?
yes. So I mean you could do a lot of different things. You come across a lot of different scenarios, but primarily over the past couple of years, I've just been transactional. Been doing wholesales and fix and flips. We're recently, trying to acquire some properties now, but it's really tough because of COVID and the pandemic and everything like that, and the market shifting. That a lot of people they have a significant amount of arrears because of COVID. We're finding that out a lot, and it's really difficult to deal with those situations by coming in with creative solutions. When just for instance, I just talked to a guy last week. He's $85,000 in arrears.
Wow.
Very very little equity.
So wholesaling is one of the predominant exit strategies when one is acquiring properties in this manner.
Yeah, 100%. But I don't want to discredit like sub-2 or any other exit strategy. If you want to, well, sub-2 is a acquisition strategy, but people do wraps all the time with them. It just depends on what that person's particular situation is, and the details of the deal is like how you're going to exit on it. And it's really random, really random. But I see more cash deals than anything.
That's great. So obviously, door knocking for most people, it's going to be their local area unless they're willing to travel to another city or state. Is that correct?
Yeah. Unless you want to like employ a team and vet people to go out and door knock for you, and generate the leads, which we do a little bit here in Memphis. Like I've trained several guys to go out and hit the doors, and all they do is set appointments for me, and I go on the appointments to get the deals closed.
That's cool. That's cool. So let me ask you, as you started outside of Pace, because Pace has been a huge, huge influence for so many people, was there anyone that played a particular role for you as far as a role model or a mentor or someone that kind of helped you or led the way? I'm sure there's a number of people that have played a variety of roles. So was it more of a team effort?
You want like my top 2 or top 3 or something like that?
Yeah,
I'll give you my top 2. I'll give you my top 2. So I had to say hands down my mom. She played a big influence. I mean, my mom passed back in 2018, but she showed me that a person can endure a lot, and they can, I mean, carry the weight of the world on their shoulders if they need to. Like my mom was a very, very sweet and beautiful human being. She would give somebody the shirt off her back. And so I got a lot of humility and endurance in that aspect from my mom. My mom was a school teacher too, so she gave me some brains as well. And from my father, he gave me hustle. He gave me grind, the ability to grind. He had me in the backyard, like sanding cars and bleeding brakes. He's a mechanic. So when I was like 7 and 8 years old, and I really couldn't stand my dad when I was younger, but when I got older, I remember getting off work one night and he was like, come throw a game of darts with me. And so I did. And we had a really good time. And I just had this moment of like, Dad, you set me up for success. That's what I told him. My dad, he actually told me something when I think I was like 9 years old that resonated with me. And we were actually sitting in the driveway. It was a short story. We were sitting in the driveway and he had crawfish. We had a place up the street that used to sell like crawfish in like grocery sacks. And so he went up there and got some crawfish and we're just sitting in the driveway. And for some reason he got all philosophical on me, right? And kids don't want to hear none of that crap. But like I never forget what my dad told me because it meant something to me when I got older. We were sitting in the driveway and we're eating crawfish and he says, son, you want to know the secret of life? Like, what's that? He's like, you see that box over there on the ground? And it was a box that like an old car part or something like that came into. I was like, yeah. He was like, go pick it up. And so I went and picked it up and he was like, throw it down the driveway. And the driveway had like a slight like incline on it. And so I threw it and it just stopped. It slid a little bit and it stopped. And he was like, if you want to make it through life, you want to know the secret. He was like, don't be like that box. He said, that box is square. He says, if you're square, you'll never get anywhere. And then he told me to go pick up my basketball. And so I went and picked up my basketball. He said, throw that down the driveway. And I threw it and it rolled all the way down the driveway, went across the street to the neighbor's driveway, came back and then rolled all the way down the street. He said, if you're well-rounded, you'll never get stuck. And I've been very versatile with the things that I've learned throughout life just because of that. And I didn't even realize I was doing it subconsciously. I know how to fix a lot of things. I cook a lot. I'm in real estate now. I started another business. And you hear that term all the time, jack of all trades, master of none, but they never finish it. The actual quote of it, it's jack of all trades, master of none, is oftentimes better than a master of one. That's actually the full statement. And so, my dad was a phenomenal influence on my life in that aspect. And honestly, if I throw one more person out there, it's got to be my son. He actually just turned 18 today. It's his 18th birthday.
Very cool.
So I do have to go to dinner here in a little bit. But my son, I had him when I was really young. I was 19 years old, and he forced me to grow up like really quickly and be responsible. And he's helped me be accountable to myself. A lot of times when I found myself doing things that maybe I shouldn't, or in that sense, he's helped me hold myself accountable. So
that's great. Your comment about your mom. My mom was also hugely pivotal in my life. My mom was also a school teacher, and she
wow.
passed in 21. Says you mentioned your mom and the role she played, and the fact she's also a school teacher takes me back to that commonality. So my heart's going out to you even more so than it did to begin with. Miss Claudia Beavers, you are on with Greg Clark. What's your question?
Hi, Greg. Thank you for sharing that story and happy birthday to your son.
Thank you. I appreciate it. What you got for me?
You're welcome. Okay, so I wanted to ask, when you first sold your first property, did you like take those funds and buy another property? Or I know you say you do fix and flips. Did you like get those properties from like an auction, or like what did you do next to build your
So
portfolio?
yeah, so my first property, I told that story. It was when I kind of stumbled into a deal and I did a fix and flip. So I'll elaborate a little bit on that because I had already started my photo booth business. I actually had cash. I was liquid enough to do the rehab on that property and throw it back on the market. Now, when I did my actual first like wholesale deal, I did that with no cash. And that was a very, very interesting situation because I had tried to wholesale for about 6 months and got nowhere with it. And almost to the end of that 6 months, I finally got a contract because I was driving for dollars. Was driving for dollars. I ended up finding a vacant house. I skip traced the owner, got a hold of him. And on that deal, we worked out a good situation. I ended up going to a couple of meetups, had a realtor friend that had a buyer that wanted it. We were going to JV on it. Community is important. And so we were going to make some money together on it. And long story short, the title work came back and the guy had it was two brothers that inherited the property, and the guy had a bail bonds lien on the property. One of the brothers did. One of the brothers went to jail. And they also had back taxes, and the amount of money they were supposed to get in proceeds got ate up by the bail bonds lien that was owed on it. And so it ended up being one of those situations where they needed more money to close because they wanted proceeds and they were going to back out on the deal. And I got frustrated and I was looking for another solution. And what I did was I went and found a mentor here in town that was doing about 10 deals a month. And I signed up for his course. It was only $2,500. And day one of going to his office, I was like, yeah, man, I got this situation, with this deal. And he was like, you need to go file a memorandum right now. And I was like, a memo what? And he printed out this piece of paper, told me to go up to the Register of Deeds office and file it. And I went and filed it. And 2.5, 3 months later, somebody called me and I got paid out on it. We negotiated for me to release it, $5,000. And so I bring that up to make a point. It's like I had no idea what I was doing through the beginning process. And then I got a mentor, and my mentor cut my learning curve. Like it just, he told me exactly what did I need to do to monetize on the deal because he knew the situation that was happening. A lot of people, they're reluctant to pay for mentors and different things like that, or get in the rooms with people that actually know what they're talking about. Me, I will pay for education. I'm sold on it. I'm sold on it because you didn't learn 2 + 2 = 4 by yourself. Like somebody taught it to you. If you try to learn how to fly a plane, like you wouldn't try to learn how to fly a plane by yourself, would you? Oh, you'd have an instructor first. And like, I think that's important in a lot of things, but I had no money when I was doing, wholesale deals, zero money out of pocket.
So, Greg, let me ask you, door knocking and pre-foreclosures. Somebody wants to get into this. Say they're watching right now on YouTube and they're a new investor and they've heard about, door knocking. Obviously, door knocking is walking neighborhood to neighborhood and finding particular, places that you want to go and try and engage with the owner. But when you're door knocking pre-foreclosures, are you given do you acquire a list of knowing what houses you go to? And if so, how does one come about these lists? Is it from the city? Is it from the county recorder? How do we find it from the banks? How does somebody find these lists when they want to go door knock for pre-foreclosures?
You usually get them from the county. So, I mean, if anybody doesn't know what door knocking is, this is the process of going door to door, obviously to have face-to-face contact. You're trying to sell usually, pest control companies and different things like that, solar companies, they try to sell a product. Door knocking is a little bit different in the sense that we're going to, we're solving a problem just like these other guys, but we're not approaching them to buy the house. We're approaching them to offer help because a lot of people don't know what to do in those situations. So if you're not familiar with the foreclosure process, it varies state by state, like the laws. So there's federal laws and there's state laws. And they vary depending on where you are in the country of how they actually can foreclose on a person. And foreclosure is actually, for those who don't know, foreclosure is a process of taking the deed out of somebody's name forcibly by either court or, the laws of the state and putting it in a new owner's name or the person who is the lien holder's name. That's what foreclosure is. And so when you find these things, they usually have an auction. And if something has an auction, they usually want people to show up to buy. And if you want somebody to show up somewhere and buy something, you have to advertise. So there's always somewhere where you can find the auction and the information of the houses that are getting foreclosed on.
And now currently with what you're doing, are you incorporating assistants, people to help you out? people door knocking with you, or are you training people?
Yeah. No, I have a really cool guy here in town. He's actually in sub two as well. His name's Dakota. Dakota's a beast. He's out knocking doors right now. He's literally an extension of me. He wanted to learn, and so I took him under my wing, and we have conversations day in, day out, and we're coaching him on how to approach these people, how to offer assistance and help, present options to them, how to follow up on leads, the whole sales process, and obviously, we're also going to be teaching him how to manage door knockers under him as well.
For people that want to get into this, and as they get in this, maybe they're learning from someone like yourself, or they're in their city or their state and they're trying to find a mentor. But as someone is getting into this field, what are some of the things that they might want to look out for, be aware of to get into this new field? It's not just like regular wholesaling, but it's, what are some of the things people might want to look at or need to take into consideration if they start to want to take on the avenue of door knocking pre-foreclosures?
I guess the thing is about it, it's like whether you're cold calling or door knocking, somebody has to do the mundane, monotonous task of the outreach every single day. That's the thing. You have to hit a certain amount of doors before you can expect a deal. If you do something long enough, a ratio will appear. And so when it comes down to cold calling, you usually have to make about 800 dials to $1,000 before you generate one lead. Whereas door knocking, that is a lot smaller, but you still have to get out there and knock the door. So traveling around town, I've been out knocking, 30 houses in a day, and I'll leave the house at like 8 or 9 in the morning. I won't get home till like 6 o'clock at night, depending on how, I route myself around the city and where the houses are. So, but somebody can easily hit 10 or 15 doors a day and get a deal. But I would say the biggest thing is like some people are like really, really nervous about going up and talking to people, random people, face to face. That's a big thing. Which if you want my advice to get over that fear, I would say just lean into it. But, it's just, sometimes it's just not your personality type. And then the other thing that I would say about door knocking is if you can't be empathetic, with some people, they just don't have them in them. I've worked with several managers over time who just don't have a face. Like, it's, I believe there's a caring bone in everybody's body, but some people just don't know how to, exert that on their face. Some people just don't know how to bring that out of themselves. Some people just know how to be surly and mean and things like that. And I would say that's probably not for you door knocking, because a lot of people are in some really, really tough situations. And you got to be able to be really empathetic and care about another human being if you're going to go down that road.
Okay. So,
be ethical.
So when we're dealing with someone who's in a foreclosure situation, they're kind of behind the 8 ball right now. And we just want to assist them to find them the best way to deal with the situation.
Correct.
Stephen Conley, you are on with Greg Clark. What's your question?
Hi, Greg. You mentioned your ability to talk to people. Is there anything else that the hospitality industry has helped you with what you're doing now?
Besides like walking a lot, honestly, hospitality is gave me a lot of different skills. It's not pertaining to real estate, but I took like intro level 78 course. I actually have a cooking channel on YouTube. I was in the industry for so long, and I worked for so many like private chefs that I definitely picked up, a thing or two about cooking. I do a lot of barbecue competitions here in town. Grand champion last year at small backyard competition. I'm a grand champion for hot wings. So, like I said, I'm a very well-rounded guy, and that's why I brought it up with my father earlier. Like, my YouTube channel is monetized. We're looking at trying to, come up with rubs and sauces and different things like that, which is totally different than, and unrelated to real estate. So it's helped me out in a number of different ways, but I'd say the main thing is me being a bartender and being able to listen to somebody, talk about what's going on in their lives and problems. Like I'm a really good listener, and then also I'm not shy of talking to random people. I mean, I would say those are the two biggest things off the top of my head I can think about.
Yeah, I think the cooking, the other things you do, I think that's important to know about other people.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
you can have a conversation, find out what people's interests are beyond what the current conversation is about. That helps build that relationship you're looking
Yeah.
for. I'm a
But
cook. I'm a
I
cook
would,
myself. You could
oh, do
probably
you?
beat me on the wings, but maybe salmon or pasta. Maybe I got you.
You probably definitely got me on the pasta. I don't play around with that stuff too much. Not too much. I'll eat it all day, but I don't play around with it too much. Every time I cook it, it's always like, what do you call it? Al dente. A little bit before al dente. Al chewy. That's what it is.
Oh, crunchy.
But yeah, I'll tell you. I'll tell you this though. This is really important. So like I did. So the first time I actually talked to Pace, he locked the deal up for me. And this is Pace Morby sub to the group. Obviously, you got the peace sign, so you know what's up. Pace is the man. So first time I talked to Pace, he locked the deal up for me, and this was my first door knocking deal. And I'll never forget what he told me on that call. So I had I got into sub to July, heard about door knocking, and after I heard about door knocking, like I immediately took action on it. Right, so I just jumped in my car and I started rolling around town. Right, I didn't have the routes figured out. I didn't have, it's like I was doing everything like very, very inefficient, but I just took action and I left the note on somebody's door. And the guy called me back. And so I've been talking to this guy for about a month. So we go all the way through the month of August. We get up to like September, right before the guy's auction date, and he ghosts me. Like he just wouldn't talk to me anymore. And if you're in sub two, you can go watch this call in the Zoom vault. I think it's like September 24th, 23rd, 24th. It's about an hour into the call. And you can tell, like, I'm really green on this. So like whole pre-foreclosure door knocking thing. Right. And I think the guy ghosts me. He ghosts me. And so he said, well, what's going on? I was like, well, I think this other investor came in and stole my rapport. And all Pay said was interesting, which he went on to elaborate. And he was like, well, where did you drop the ball on this thing? And so we got kind of go back and forth. And he was like, you got the guy's number? Can I call the guy? And I was like, sure. So he calls the guy 3 times and he doesn't answer. And so it was kind of bummer. I was like, man, I want to Pace to talk to my guy, my lead or whatever, but he hadn't been answering for me all day. So I expected it. And so he kind of came back. He was like, well, I was going to ask the guy, like, what could we have done better, to earn your business, yada, yada, yada. Well, the guy calls him back. Well, this is on the Zoom. And so he has this conversation with him. And long story short, he ends up getting the guy to the finish line on closing the deal. And so I actually go over to the guy's house, get the contract. It happens all on Zoom. Like I hang up, I leave the Zoom, I go home, I get a contract. Didn't even need one because he got Rochelle to get the deal, like his old transaction coordinator. But it all happens the entirety of the Zoom. So later on in the Zoom, you hear me pop back up or the guy pop back up, and it was pretty cool. Live deal locked up, live contract locked up back in the beginning of sub 2. But after he got off the call, he was like, what did I do that you didn't do? And I couldn't answer the question. And what he said was, he was like, you built rapport wrong. He said, and this is pertaining to being in hospitality, how I used to build rapport when I worked in hospitality was like relating to that person, right? I would relate to a person by talking about common interests, cats, dogs, what's on the TV, what's on your hat, which is cool. It's really nice to, kind of wedge your way into a conversation with a person, which I'm really good at, right? Just talking about random things that, that person might be interested in to open up that dialogue. But in this business, especially in a business where you're going after foreclosures or you're going after discounted properties, like you have to solve a problem. And you don't build rapport by talking about cats and dogs. I'll never forget it. It's ingrained in my head. Pace told me, he was like, you build rapport by building credibility. And how do you build credibility? You build credibility by showing that person you are the person that can solve their problem. And so I didn't show that guy that I was the guy that knew how to solve his problem. And that's why like my rapport was like off. And so, that's really important. I've never forgotten it. I've never forgotten it. You build rapport by building credibility, not talking about cats and dogs. I mean, that stuff is cool. It'll make the conversation go smoother, but you have to show that person that you know how to solve their problem. And so I just want to, throw that out there, just, to kind of tell you where I made a mistake in coming from hospitality over to this business. Right.
Well, thank you.
Veronica, you're on with Greg Clark. What's your question?
Hi, Greg. Thank you so much. Hopefully this is a short question. You said you have somebody out door knocking now. Do you have people that are helping you door knock? And then what are they doing? What are they doing for you? Because I figure you closed the deal, but what kind of information are they getting you? What kind of steps are they taking to do? What kind of work are they doing for you?
Yeah, sure. So what's Dakota does, and the several other people that I've trained, which I've run into big, huge issues with keeping people motivated to continually knock. And I'm doing something right now to curb that. And I'll actually tell you what that is. Open book. I don't mind sharing. So what Dakota actually does is he goes and he gets an appointment. He's just an appointment setter. That's his sole job. And over time, because he is being loyal to me and helping me get deals. Now, obviously, we pay him out on the deals that we get, and I'll tell you about that structure here in a second. But I am coaching him because Dakota wants to own and run his own business, right? I'm just being that guiding light, guiding him down the path where he's not just walking in the dark in the wilderness trying to figure it out himself. So we're adding value to each other, and I'm gonna make a point to say that like that's what it's all about. When it comes down to door knocking or any business, like you have to add value to another human being to get paid. Like for the value to come back to you, you have to go add value to another person. So I don't care whether you're a mechanic. I don't care whether you're a person working in a restaurant. My son works at Chick-fil-A. He's being of service. Everybody has to be of service if you want to feed your family, right? And the money that you make is in direct correlation of how much value you bring to as many human beings as fast as possible. So I'll throw that out there. So when it comes down to houses, if you can solve a problem for somebody with their house, right? That's big, like foreclosure, family getting displaced, different things like that. That has a lot of value. That's significant for somebody to have a skill set to go in and solve that problem. So you get paid accordingly, right? And so I just kind of want to throw that out there. But Dakota, what he does is he goes to the door and he'll knock on the door and, he has a script and everything like that. But his goal at the door is just to get a phone number and or set an appointment for me. That's it. That's all he does. And Dakota, he goes on to the next door. He goes on to set more appointments. Like his sole focus is to get a phone number and set an appointment. And because he does that, he actually goes out and does what is essentially equivalent to cold calling, right? Like he's generating the lead, but we're not approaching people at the door asking, hey, can we buy your house? We're not approaching people like that. Like we're asking them, can we present options to them on how they can save their home, even keep their home if that's what they're trying to do. We always try to find out what a person is trying to accomplish, but I don't let Dakota go into the weeds too much. Like, we've had some back and forth, like he's trying to learn and stuff like that, but his sole job is an appointment setter, right? And we're going to graduate Dakota into the person that's actually closing the deals because we're going to bring some people in under him, and I'm going to tell you about that in just a second. But that person's role is just to go to the door, get a phone number, and set an appointment. And after that, after he sets an appointment for me, I get on a phone call and or have an in-person appointment. I always try to get an in-person appointment because I'm deadly in person, right? Like I have some bartender mannerisms. I can, make people laugh and different things like that. So, when it comes down to me going in, I actually present the options and try to get a deal out of it if I can. A lot of times you can't close a deal, going in and having an appointment on the first time. It requires follow-up, just like any other business. 70% of your deals come from follow-up. And so case in point, Dakota knocked a door about 2 months ago. Family guy passed away, cousin living in the property. And so I'm going to use this to explain how powerful door knocking is. So Dakota knocked this door. The guy who's on the mortgage and on the deed to the home has passed away. He has no kids. Both of his parents have passed away, right? And he has one sister. Who is everybody calling and or texting trying to get that deal? Everybody who's passed away. there's actually a cousin living in the house because Dakota knocked the door. He talked to the cousin put me in contact with the sister. Right. So that's the power of door knocking. And I'm gonna give you one further. So like right now, between all the contacts that we've made in the past couple of weeks, we only have 20. Like we've deleted some out because the auction dates have passed or whatever. But we only have 20. And out of those 20, we have 2 contracts. And so just to kind of give you, like, if cold calling, you have to go through 800 dials to generate 1 lead. Like there's literally 20 people in my system and we have 2 contracts off of them. I think at one point this year we had maybe 25 and I had 3 contracts out of it. Just to kind of give you like how powerful door knocking is, right? And that's why I tell people it's the fastest way to get a deal, but it does require work, right? And so that's what Dakota's job is. I go in and close, I follow up, and then on the flip side of it, what my biggest problem right now is I've trained a lot of people how to go out and do what I do, and I don't think they're the right type of person to do that particular job. Just like I'm not suited to cold call, like I will avoid it. Some people are just not suited to door knock. And that's why I was saying earlier, you need to find out if it's your thing or not, like really quickly, so you can move on to find a thing that's what's going to give you energy. I always tell people, do the thing that's going to give you energy. Like when I door knocked for the first time, I knocked 30 doors the first day and the second day. Clearly, like it gave me energy. So some people, it just doesn't. And so I've been having a problem with like turnover, right? Like I had one guy earlier this year, he knocked for 2 weeks. We got a contract and he quit. He just, fell off, excuses and different things like that, creative avoidance. And so what I'm actually doing now is I've reached out to a company to vet people for me and give me resumes. Essentially what I did was it takes you, and this is something I'm learning, so I'm gonna share this with you guys. So my first restaurant job was a restaurant called Steak and Ale. And I had a guy, I worked my way up from busser to bartender. I had a guy that was my manager there. He told me something I'll never forget. He said, Greg, out of every 10 to 20 hires, you get 1 stud. And he was like, you're that stud. And I didn't know if he was like screwing with me or what, but like when I got older, like, it's like I realized, like, yeah, I am that stud, right? Because you notice everybody you're around, like their work ethic versus yours. But it's the same thing. So like me getting Dakota to knock doors for me, I had to go through like, I think 4 or 5 people before I found Dakota. Right. And honestly, I'm probably going to have to go through another 30 before I find another Dakota. Right. Because that's just how it works. It's literally like leads, when it comes down to talent. Like you have to reach out to a lot of people just to get a select few that will actually perform and do the thing you need to do. And so what I did was I found a company that'll reach out to like 900 different like resumes for people looking for a very particular thing. Like these people do door-to-door sales, solar, pest control, different things like that. And so these people are already suited to go door-to-door. And so honestly, I'm not expecting somebody to work 20 years for me door knocking, but it's better than somebody knocking for 2 weeks to have somebody knocking for 3 to 6 months before they quit. I can get a lot of contracts. And so like, that's actually what I'm doing. So, I'm open book, a little food for thought there.
Awesome. Thank you.
Seven Smith, you are on with Greg Clark. What's your question?
Hi, Greg. Thank you so much for this information. One of the things I wanted to know, because with the climate that we have right now, with folks, going to door, I know people just get shot just going up to happen to go to the wrong door. How do you approach a door, particularly when we know that they are in pain already and probably others have been harassing them for a long time about the property? How do you cushion that?
That's a really good question. So anybody who I've trained to door knock, I always tell them, look, make sure you protect yourself, be vigilant of your surroundings at all times, especially if you're a lady. Some ladies, I wouldn't recommend them going into sketchy areas if a door's on their list and it's looking really sketchy, get out of there. But for me, approaching a door and talking to a homeowner that's in distress, you gotta have thick skin because you'll get a lot of doors slammed in your face. Let's just be honest. I mean, it's just like people when you're calling them on the phone, you'll get hung up on a lot of times. Same thing at the door. but I have a general faith in human beings. I don't believe there's many evil people in the world. And I truly believe that. I believe there's more light than darkness. And so, yeah, somebody might be irritated because you came by. I can take a cuss word here or there. And the reason why is because if you actually go out and door knock, if you actually talk to somebody that's, in a terrible situation, like their house is about to get foreclosed on, and you walk up to that door and you see 3 kids that are sitting on the couch, they have no electricity. It's when you reach that door, like it'll happen if you door knock long enough. Like it'll happen once a week. I'll have somebody that says, "Thank God somebody stopped by." I prayed to God for help. And once you hear that, I mean, I'll be honest with you, like it erases all of the FUs and like the bad, like negative stuff that you've gotten like all week, because somebody is just like so thankful that you came by. Even if you just sit down and talk to them on the porch. Like I've had many conversations for like an hour on the front porch with the homeowner, didn't even buy their house, but they just needed somebody to talk to them or point them in the right direction. I had one lady, her biggest hang up was, she had a disagreement with her sons, and she hadn't talked to her sons in years. And, we were about to go down our options or whatnot. And one of the things I always ask people if they're trying to stay in their houses is, is there anybody that you can reach out to that would loan you the money to come up, with the back payments? Because I think she was only behind like $4,000. And I was like, honestly, I just had somebody that was 25, $4,000 is not that much in the grand scheme of things. Somebody can probably loan you that money. And me just sitting down and having a conversation with her, I found out she had an emotional disagreement. She had an emotional block with her kids. And I sat down and I had a heart to heart with her. And because of the heart to heart I had, she was able to muster up the strength to call her sons to bail her out of that situation. So once you deal with it, like all the other stuff goes away. Like it really does. It's like you're here to be of service, and it's not easy, and then besides that, when it comes down to approaching a door and you're trying to make sure that you're safe, and I just try to be as respectful as possible. Like I took a young guy out door knocking a couple of months ago, and I would say it was a pretty sketchy cove. It wasn't a sketchy area, but that cove was definitely sketchy. There's a couple guys just hanging out in the middle of the street. I wouldn't recommend my son go into this cove. I'm not trying to stereotype anything, but it was just some action going on. And I rolled right on in there. And I rolled down my window, and I said what's up to the guys in the street, and start cracking jokes. And I was like, hey man, I just stopped by and to see what's going on with this house. And it was like, who lives there? And I got out and I started talking to the guys. I was just like super respectful when I walked up. I was super respectful. I'm always empathetic. I tell people, if you're walking up to somebody's house, like I don't even walk in people's yards if I can avoid it. Like I walk up the sidewalk. Like I'm just super respectful. And even when people open the door, like the first thing I do is apologize. Like I say, I'm so sorry to interrupt your day. Like I say, hey, my name's Greg. I'm so sorry to interrupt your day. Like I immediately apologize, right? Like I'm trying to let that person know that like this is about to be somewhat of a pleasurable experience, or I'm not a threat. Like I just want to let people know I'm not a threat. Like I've shown people like how I actually go to the door and I knock on it. When I go to the door and I knock on it, like I'll knock, like 3 times, either with a tone, or I'll make sure I do it firmly enough where somebody can hear me. Not like the police, because like I said, I ain't trying to get shot. But what I'll do is I'll back up from the door, and I won't even look at the door. Like I'll turn my side to the door, and I'll do something like crazy, like I'll be looking down the street or something like that, just so people are like, and who's this crazy guy standing out in front of my house? Like they're just like really curious, but I'm far enough away where like they don't feel like I can bomb rush them at the door. And not only that, I show my back a lot. It's a body language thing. So like if I'm squared up with the door, like it's like I'm in attack mode, right? But if my back's to the door, right, or I'm turned to my side and I'm far enough away from the door, like I don't seem like a threat at all. That's how I approach it.
Yeah. I was also taught to, when you knock, once you knock, you come down, get off the porch. You're told to come back and, just stand further back.
I would say a minimum of 10 to 15 feet.
Yeah.
If there's a porch and there's stairs, I definitely come off the porch. It just depends on like how their yard's situated, different things like that. Like I try not to like stand in people's yards and stuff, but it just depends. Like it's a case by case basis, obviously, but I just try to be as respectful of that person's property as possible.
Yeah, I love your statement though. I love that introduction of. I'm so sorry to, interrupt your day. So thank you.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. Like I love it. Here's the biggest thing. Like JJ said earlier, I kind of flew on a radar and stuff too for a decent amount of time, and I'm honestly like I'm still kind of under the radar. Like I got a lot of friends, JJ being one of them in sub two, a lot of people that I can call, to talk to. But like I kind of flew on the radar, and one of the things that I like about for anybody that's in sub two on the Zoom, like I did a whole course on like door knocking. You can find it in the Zoom ball under pre-foreclosures, right? I'm right under Kiki Shrugs, who is a good friend of mine. She stops all of my auctions. So if anybody in here needs an auction postponed, like my Scan Me code is on the screen, scan it, reach out to me, and I will get you hooked up with Kiki if you need an auction postponed. She is a beast. She stopped one for me like 2 days ago. Okay. Didn't even talk to the homeowner. Got it postponed. She is deadly on the phone with the banks. But one of the things that I really enjoy is I found out, and I've actually found this out from my YouTube channel when I put out my wing video. I didn't think that my wing video would like do that well, or I knew the recipe was 1000% good, but like I didn't think that it was going to matter to anybody. Honestly, when I started the YouTube channel, we were just documenting our recipes and having a place to put our recipes, online, so we can go back and like it was always there, right? And we made this one wing video, and now it has like 70,000 views on it. I have people in England, thanking me for making the wings from England to Knoxville, Tennessee to Australia. And so the reason why I bring that up is like, you don't know what kind of value your knowledge could provide to another person until you say it and speak it and show somebody that you have it, right? And I noticed that when I started the YouTube channel, and then I also noticed it. I don't know if I'm breaking up. Am I breaking up?
Nope, you're good.
I also noticed it when I started doing Zooms and stuff inside of Sub 2 and actually teaching people how to door knock. Like what is powerful. And like I said, you are here for somebody else. I don't care what anybody says, like you are here for another human being. Right? Like you're gonna say something to somebody, whether it be your niece or your nephew or somebody. Like you're gonna help somebody in their journey going through this thing we call life. And so whatever you're learning right now, like your responsibility is to give it back to the community in some shape, form, or fashion. And you get paid, and right now it's monetary gains. Back in the day, you used to like get traded for fish if I build you this or whatever. We used to do barter, but now it's money. And money is a tool for you just to add value back to the community. I mean, think about it. Like you go out and you tell somebody something, and let's say I'm doing public speaking and I speak on something and somebody pays me like $60,000 to speak at an event. What am I going to do with the 60,000? It's like, all right, cool. Appreciate it. I could just take my family out to dinner. Immediately I'm adding value back to the people who work at that restaurant so they can feed their family. So like money is nothing but a tool to add value to people. Right. And if you take that money and you build a business, you're adding value to multiple people. Right. Like how many people are going to benefit from having a job at whatever company you have that can feed their families, right? So like it's all reciprocal. So like what I've learned over the past couple of years from starting a YouTube channel to opening up my mouth about door knocking is, and I did a meetup in Nashville and I spoke in front of 70 people. I mean, it's the value that I added to people for something that I didn't really think was that valuable was tremendous. So if you have something to say, I'd say it and speak up about it. So. But I appreciate you thanking me for my introduction.
Greg, man, I think that was fantastic. That was an awesome, not that we're over, but that was just a great way to summarize everything about bringing value, helping people. And I think what you're doing for your community is great, and what you're doing for the community is fantastic. I got a question. If people want to follow up with you, say they're watching on YouTube right now, or the people that are watching on the call with us live right now, but if people want to follow up with you, they've got questions about door knocking. I mean, are you coaching? Do you have a website? Do you have a mentorship? I know you said you'll bring on people and train them, but are you doing anything maybe a little bit beyond that, where people, can people contact you if they have a question? Is that possible?
Yeah, I'll probably say the easiest way to reach out to me is Facebook Messenger. You can find me. My name's Greg Clark. You'll see me smiling just like that on my Facebook page. But you can go through Facebook Messenger, send me a message. Also, you can find me on Instagram at Greg Clark 901. You reach out to me, you got a question, I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. I don't have like a coaching program or mentorship. I'll try to help as many people as I possibly can. I mean, you sit there and you think about it, like how many, I don't know how many foreclosures like I've gotten postponed or stopped this year, but if I just keep all that knowledge to myself, it's like, well, that's great. I can, get that many foreclosures stopped by myself. But if I tell somebody how to do it, how many more foreclosures can I stop?
Mhm.
Like how many more people can I help just because I said something about it? So I just tell people all the time, man, like, hey, this is what I would do in this situation, or why don't you try this? Sometimes it gets a little overwhelming, obviously, because I've started being a little bit more vocal about, what I do and different things like that. But I try to get back to everybody. If I don't get back to you in like 2 days, don't fret. Like I'll get back to you within, a couple more days. But honestly, if as people actually call, I had somebody call me last week. It's like, hey man, I got this seller. Can you jump on the phone with her because I'm like stuck? I don't mind doing that. Like I JV with people all the time. So, just hit me up if you got a question, comment, concern, or you need help pushing a deal for it. And, if I can't help you, maybe I can, find somebody to come in and help you.
Do you use batch leads or PropStream?
I use both, but I don't use them for door knocking at all. So I use PropStream to comp really easy on properties. I don't pull lists. I use batch for, you can comp a little bit on there, but I get stuff skip traced. I don't like pulling lists from batch leads or PropStream because they're what you call third party aggregators, right? So they are a person that's going to go in and find the data way after it's been posted and then pull the data to put on their site, or they buy it from somebody else to put on their site, and it takes like forever. So like in my county, I could go to and this is why I tell people to learn the laws of foreclosure. You can literally go to like nolo.com and look up your state's foreclosure laws, and it'll tell you like what you need to do or it'll tell you the process of auction. So like I'll tell you, for instance, here in Tennessee, it says that by law for a lender or whoever to foreclose on somebody, they have to post it in a publication 3 times before they legally can foreclose on somebody. Like that's a law. Like they have to post it 3 times in a publication, and it's public. So I literally go to a site here in Memphis and I pull all the foreclosures off of that site. It'll tell me the first time it was posted on there all the way up to the third time. And I will pull that list. And then what I used to wrap myself around the city back when I didn't know a lot about what I was doing was I used MapQuest. It was free. It had an app that went on my phone, and I would just like copy and paste that list, upload it to MapQuest. And I was out the door. I didn't put very much thought into it, and I just like went around and started knocking doors. So like I don't use batch or PropStream because the data is inaccurate. I always get it from the county or from a place that actually gets foreclosures very, very quickly. There's a couple places you can pay for this, but you just want to make sure that they're getting stuff like on a daily or weekly basis and updating their sites. For Texas, example, there's a site called Roddy's Foreclosures. If you're trying to do marketing or whatever in Texas for pre-foreclosures, there's a site called Roddy's Foreclosures, and they update that site daily with the foreclosures that are coming up for the next auction because they only foreclose once a month in Texas. As opposed to Tennessee, where we have auctions almost every single day, like except for the weekends. Like it's crazy here in Tennessee, and it goes so quick. It goes quick in Texas, except for they only foreclose once a month, and they're constantly updating that site with new auctions because they actually send the guys out to the counties to pull the information direct from like their municipality. So that works out really well. But here in Tennessee, it's really easy. So it just depends on where you are in the country.
Let's wrap up. I know it's your son's birthday. You're going to run. I want to ask you one last question. And I'm going to close up here. But, my group's a networking group, and I'm always talking about the importance of networking. But with yourself being a professional in the real estate industry, you're established. You're a proven entity. You've been doing this, and you're very successful. You're highly recognized. Every education platform has a Facebook group for their membership. And people are coming to these Facebook communities with no experience or some with a great deal of experience, but sometimes they're new to the social media aspect of real estate to get their education and build their business. Whether someone's new or experienced in real estate as they're coming to social media, what is the importance of networking to build their business? And what's the importance of maybe joining a group like mine to build their business?
Yeah, so the importance of networking is this, which I elaborated earlier. Now, I paid to be close to a guy when I was trying to start real estate and go down this whole journey. And the first time I paid money to be close to a guy, he ended up making me money because he cut my learning curve down. Okay, so also I will tell you this, like the amount of money you make is going to be direct correlation to who's in proximity to you. There's a saying out there that your bank account will be the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. But also I will say this, if you're hanging out with the same people and those people are not growing and learning and getting in uncomfortable situations and stuff like that, then you're going to become stale and stagnant. One of my managers at one of my restaurants I worked at, she had a really good quote. It was called, what was it saying? It was always stay green and growing, never become ripe and rotten. Because when you're ripe and rotten, you fall off the tree, right? And then you wither and die. But if you're green and growing, you stay there and you keep soaking up all the nutrients and all that good stuff. So just to kind of put that in perspective. But joining a group like JJ's, I mean, you know, he has a vast reach across so many different networks. He networks with a lot of people himself. And if he can't give you the answer, he probably definitely knows somebody who can give you the answer or point you in the right direction. Just because somebody doesn't have the knowledge or the answer you're looking for doesn't mean one of their friends or somebody in their network and circle hasn't already opened that door up. And all JJ needs to do is be the person that passes the key to you. So that's the importance of networking. Networking is super important, super important. I'll tell you this. I had a seed that I planted. I'll probably say about a year ago. Guy from Rick Daniels Group, TTP. We had been talking back and forth. I forgot where I met him at. I think there was another TTP student here that told me to give this guy a call because he was doing deals in Memphis. And so I talked to that guy. We had a nice conversation. And over the course of a year, we've probably talked maybe 20, 30 times. And, you know, he's tried to bring me deals a couple of times. Nothing's panned out, probably about 3 deals or so. And he called me randomly like a month ago and said, "Hey man, I got this deal here in Memphis. Can you work it with me?" And so I went over there and, you know, kind of boots on the ground, found the buyer for it. And I mean, you know, it's a $20,000 assignment. We're splitting it. It's $10,000 a piece. But it was literally from networking with another guy who put me in contact with this guy, a couple of phone conversations, and a year later, like he brings me a deal. And that's a relationship that will continue to give as long as I nurture that relationship. But that's the power of networking. And I mean, there's several more, you know, stories that I can tell you like that. Networking super powerful, super important.
Yeah, Greg, thank you so much. I want to say, if you guys are watching now on YouTube, please like Greg's video. Please like the presentation. Put some comments there in the YouTube section there where you can make comments, you know, what your takeaways are on the call today. If you guys are on the call right now, don't go away. We're going to do breakout rooms, some live networking as soon as the call ends. Again, you can contact Greg by going through his Facebook page, Greg Clark. You can reach out to me as well. I can put you in touch with Greg. And if you want to get into my group or connect with me, go to jjazizian.com and click the little register now button. Register for the group. We'll connect, help you build your business by building your network. Greg, I want to thank you again. And hopefully we'll have you back. And hopefully before that, you and I get together, maybe see a ball game or something. But
yeah, 1000%. JJ, I appreciate you having me on. It was a pleasure coming on to speak to everybody. I hope I provided a decent amount of value for people. If I didn't, I'm sorry.
No,
but,
you were awesome, brother. I could see taking notes and just dropping all kind of great bombs and gold nuggets there. So I guess that's what we tell everybody. Thank you very much, and we'll see them next time around. You guys, Peace. Thank you for joining us. See you soon.